What you're about to hear is not an easy story. It is marked by oppression, defiance against God, pain, death, and justice. That's why this content is not recommended for minors or for people sensitive to intense themes. Despite its severity, there are lessons that can transform lives. Let us walk together through this dark valley of biblical history. It was a time of empires, of men who believed they were gods, of kings who ordered deaths with just a nod, of oppressed peoples crying out for freedom. For 400 years, the people of Israel lived as slaves in Egypt, forced to build, to carry, to suffer, whips on their backs, scorching heat, cries muffled by the routine of forced labor. But God heard, and then he said, "Enough." God chose a man, Moses, someone who had failed, someone who had fled, but who was found by a bush that burned and was not consumed. "Go to Pharaoh," God said, "and say, 'Let my people go.'" But Pharaoh laughed. He challenged God. And in his arrogance, he tried to ignore the creator of the heavens and the earth. Then the plagues began, not as simple punishments, but as signs. Cries from heaven saying, "I am the Lord." The first plague, the water of the Nile turned to blood. The sacred river, Egypt's national pride, became foul and undrinkable. Fish died. People tried to dig around the river for clean water, but found only more blood. The second plague, frogs. Yes, frogs everywhere. In beds, in dishes, in temples, a disgusting and chaotic nuisance sent straight from heaven. The third plague, gnats. The dust of the earth rose up and became a living plague, a microscopic swarm that infested both humans and animals. Not even the Egyptian priests could purify themselves. The fourth plague, flies. Thousands, millions, buzzing, biting, defiling. Egypt smelled of decay and fear began to spread. The fifth plague, the death of animals. Cows, horses, sheep falling dead in the fields. Egypt's agricultural wealth disappeared before the king's eyes, and still, he hardened his heart. The sixth plague, boils, open sores on the skin, men writhing in pain, scratching themselves with stones, as if they could tear the punishment away with their nails. But it was God who struck them. The seventh plague, hail, but not ordinary hail. It was fire and ice falling from the sky, burning trees, killing servants, destroying crops. Nature itself seemed to cry out against injustice. The eighth plague, locusts. They came like armies, devouring everything that was left. The last hope for a harvest vanished before their eyes. Despair took over. The ninth plague, darkness. Not just the absence of light, but a thick, oppressive darkness, as if the sun itself had hidden in shame. 3 days without seeing anything. 3 days in which fear whispered, "What will come next?" And then came the 10th, the darkest, the most devastating, the death of the firstborn. God gave a warning. "Tonight, I will pass through the land of Egypt, and wherever there is no blood of the lamb, the firstborn shall die." Midnight, a deadly silence, and suddenly, screams. Screams from mothers, from fathers, from Pharaoh, who lost his son, from every household that did not trust in the only protection God had offered. That night, all of Egypt cried. But in Israel, there was peace. There was blood on the doorposts. There was obedience. There was faith. What does this story teach us? That God does not remain silent forever in the face of injustice. That he hears the cries of the oppressed. That human pride will never overcome the sovereignty of the Lord. And that there is a limit, a moment when God says, "Enough." Each plague was a strike against Egypt's false gods, a dismantling of human arrogance. It was heaven declaring, "I alone am God." And even in the midst of pain, there was a way out, the blood of the Lamb, divine covering, the promise of deliverance. If you've listened this far, breathe. This is not just a story of suffering, it is a story of hope, because the same God who judged Egypt is the God who sets captives free. He is the God who sees your pain and who still offers salvation today.